Wembanyama is a demigod. He's what every 2K my player wants to
Yeah,
be, right?
exactly.
Yeah.
The 3-point percentage, at one point, it was exactly the field goal percentage. So.
Oh, welcome, Sasrikal Gianu to Beyond the Radar. We're back at it again. Let's go. Before we get started, we just want to thank everyone for the love on the first podcast. You know, if you guys didn't see it yet, please check it out. And then
Before we start with today's topics, we would like for you guys to like this video, comment on this video, and subscribe to the channel. We would love to reach 100 subscribers by the end of this month. Without further ado, let's get started with the Heat Celtics game one that just ended about a couple of hours ago. I'll let you take the reins because I obviously missed the first half coming back from work. So you let me know what happened in the first half, and I'll try to fill in the stuff that I noticed in the second half.
Yeah, so basically, first half was a pretty back and forth, to be honest. And then Celtics did run away with it a little bit. They got to a 13-point lead, and then but the Heat cut it to 9 at halftime. The big takeaways from game one or first half were the Celtics were playing big bully ball, so they were getting to paint a lot, attacking the rim. The paint touches were good for them, and then but the Heat were in the game because one of Bam Adebayo was pretty aggressive in the first quarter, and then Kyle Lowry, when he came off the bench, I think he had 3 threes in a row at one point. And
then, I did see a meme on the train where he was Kyle Lowry, Michael Jordan meme.
Yeah, and then just what kept Heat in the game and cut it to 9 points was just the 3-point. The 3-point field goal percentage was absolutely incredible today, and that's what kept him in the game and ultimately probably won him the game.
Okay, so yeah, like I got back, I think around third quarter, just start at the end, mid third quarter. So by the time I turned it on, it was a tie game. And yeah, you're right. I was just seeing shots going by Gabe Vincent. I saw shots going by Max Strus, I believe. Jimmy Butler was just doing Jimmy Butler things. When I checked the stats, Bam Adebayo had like 18 points at that point. And then the one that just took me by surprise was, let me quickly pull it up, was the 3-point percentage. At one point, it was exactly the field goal percentage. So yeah. By the end of this game, Miami had 16 out of 31, which was 51%, and the total field goal percentage was at 54%. And the funny thing is, Celtics got to the line 10 more times. So, yeah, when I was watching it, I saw Bam just being aggressive, bully ball, getting tie-ups, winning the jump ball, and then just being aggressive on the offensive end. Like he didn't settle, he didn't give up the ball. And every shot I almost saw, the Heat almost hit that 3. Anything else you noticed from that Heat side of things?
We also said this last time. In order for Heat to win a game, Bam needs to be aggressive, which he was. And then the game turned around in the third quarter where Heat dropped 45 points in the third quarter, really getting a lead and just held on to it to the rest of the game.
Yeah, and we also said that like Jimmy's got to do Jimmy things, and to be honest, I didn't even feel like that Jimmy Milwaukee series, but he did put like a 35. Lot of 35, which is big, and got supporting.
One key stat here: Kyle Lowry, Gabe Vincent, Max Strus, and Caleb Martin all combined for 60 points. Each of them scored 15 exactly.
Yeah,
and then Bam had 20, and then Jimmy had 35. That should have been a successful game, and it was for the Heat.
It was, yeah. Even to be honest. Even from the Celtics, let's switch over to the Celtics. You have anything else to say to the Heat?
Or the Heat,
just keep this up, I guess.
Keep it up. Do it 3 more times.
They got the split, so that's key. Hopefully, if they get game 2, then Celtics are definitely in trouble.
Yeah.
But getting the split first, it was big. But for the Celtics, it didn't seem like they had a bad offensive game, because when you look at the stats for Tatum and Brown, Tatum dropped 30 on 9 for 17 shooting, so maybe could have shot more, but it's still 53%. Brown 48%. Off the bench, 6th man of the year, Malcolm Brogdon dropped 19.
Absolutely killer.
Derek White had a few good defensive possessions, but I think overall, obviously because I missed a bit of the first half, so I was watching Shaq, Kenny, Ernie, and Chuck inside the NBA, and they did say like the defense cost him a bit, and clearly so, because like how everybody went off for the Heat should have not been the case, especially with the home game for the Celtics. So I'm looking for the next game to see how will they respond for sure defensively, because offensively it didn't seem like it was too bad from what I was watching. They did cut it down to I think 6 or 5 at one point late in the fourth, from what I noticed. And then after that, the Heat just, I guess, got some big stops and ran away with it.
Yeah, so Celtics honestly didn't play bad. It's just that Heat played perfect, in my opinion. And then, yes, defensively they could have been better, obviously, especially on closeouts. But like the way they were playing Bam in the first quarter was like because they knew Bam could like kick out the ball pretty well to 3. So then they kept him 1-on-1 in there. And that's where Bam being aggressive obviously helped because he dropped 20 points and was absolutely killer in the game. And then when they did conversion on Bam, he kicked it out for the open threes, and the Heat made their shots.
Who started off on Jimmy Butler? Do you remember as guarding? Was it Brown or Tatum?
They were switching everything. They were switching everything.
Do you want to see any change according to the defensive side to at least contain one or two of the guys, or I guess close out to the shooters is a big thing, right? Because the one thing with Heat like Duncan Robinson played like 6 minutes, I think, and he was like supposed to be the main 3-point shooter, but obviously he wasn't the guy. But like the undrafted guys, the hustle guys, they hit every shot, right? Do you anticipate happening that in game 2 again, or is it's just gonna be another? If it is, it's just like, okay, yeah, might as well give Heat the series if they pull this type of offensive game again.
It's gonna be hard to replicate this game,
especially in Boston
and in general too, because like 6 people, I believe, were in double digits. The 4 that dropped 15, Bam, and then Jimmy. So like that's that's gonna be hard to replicate. But like if you're hot, you're hot,
Yeah.
And if you're hot over a series, it's gonna be hard to stop. And then the Celtics could be in trouble. But I'm not worried if I'm a Celtics fan or anyone just like that.
Kind of have to be slightly worried though, because they did get the split, so pressure is on. That yes, the pressure is on to win this game. Then when you go back to Miami, the pressure is on then to get the split there, because if not, it could be Raps in 6 for what we know, right? So the Celtics obviously need to win one on the road for sure now.
Yeah, that's true, but like I just feel like the Celtics played in a way where it's sustainable, right?
Yeah.
And then they played a good game, honestly. It's just that the Heat were like
perfect. You're right in a way, because I now remember they did lose game 1 to Philly without Embiid, so they did turn that tide around there quickly. So yeah, I mean, for all we know, they obviously need to have a big response.
It's one of the reasons why I'm not worried is because the way they got their points, especially in the first half, and as well as throughout the game, is like in the paint, and that's very like efficient scoring. So like you could easily have high field goal percentage if you keep on attacking the paint, attacking the rim, and then just driving at the hoop.
Yeah, it seemed like a good game for sure, man. I'm pissed that I had to miss it. Yeah, but good thing Friday I end early, so I should be in home in time to at least catch the beginning before we go to our possible family event later on. But it was definitely. Anything else you want to add to it before we? Because we do have some slight breaking news. No, you want to close it out right there?
Yeah, let's close it out there. For game 2, I would predict the Celtics victory.
Yeah, I mean, it has to be, right? You kind of have to predict them.
Yeah.
Just, it wasn't even like they had a bad game. It was just Miami, like you said, was perfect. So I think, I feel like they will defensively clamp up, and I'm sure Miami will miss some shots that they kept hitting. But before we go to game 1 for the Lakers Nuggets yesterday, some slight breaking news tweeted by Shams Sarania about a couple of minutes ago here. Warriors and president of basketball operations, Bob Myers, have had no substantial contract extension. So it's not like he's officially leaving yet, but they're bracing for a likelihood that he could walk away from the franchise. So this is big because he definitely put out a competent roster around Steph, Dre, and Clay. Finesse some trades like the Wiggins for D'Lo trade, for example, that helped them win the chip last year. Finding small guys like Kevon Looney. So I'm definitely intrigued to see what they do, if they're going to hire internally, if he even comes back. And he's hot on the market, that's for sure. I don't know who. I'm not sure who's looking for a new president or a GM or whatever. Probably president. He'll definitely be hot on the market for sure.
Yeah, that's true. Like he did put over a good roster. He put a dynasty roster at the end of the day.
Exactly. Yeah. I mean,
right. So like
4 chips.
You can't fault them for anything, and especially the one they won last year without Kevin Durant was also big.
And finding guys like Otto Porter.
Yeah.
And like making moves like that for sure.
And then also like getting Wiggins, and who played a big part. In my personal opinion, he was the second best player in that series last year in the finals.
Yeah, not even just the team, the series.
Yeah. So then, I mean, he did his job. He did his job well. So if he leaves, if it's up to him, if I'm the Warriors, try to re-sign him as fast as possible.
Yeah. Yeah, I wonder what they do now. Do they hire external or internal? I think that's the key thing. I mean, if they hire internal, hopefully he learned some stuff off Bob Myers, so
Yeah.
it'll definitely help him. Definitely will help him in the future with the possible contracts that need to be done.
Moving on to the Western Conference Final, the Lakers and the Nuggets had a game one, and the Lakers came up short. So, as the Lakers fan, what are your thoughts?
Yeah. Again, same thing as the Heat game. I missed a little bit of the end of the first quarter to the second quarter because I was driving home, so I was listening to it as a radio style. But I did catch the beginning on the SkyTrain, and bad start for sure. We're getting Jokic out rebounded us alone, so that was a little annoying. It was like the early start was bad. I like I said last pod, I did say that we should not be starting the small lineup like the Warriors closing lineup,
Yeah.
because of the size, and it definitely backfired. Definitely Vanderbilt should have started that game, or well, we'll get to it later, but possibly Hachimura. But as the game went on, it was like a little even. Then obviously they ran away. They hit like every shot. KCP went nuts with his 3-pointer. Jamal Murray dropped 30. Jokic had like a 30-20-15 game, I believe, or something like that. Yeah, so the start was horrendous. We were down like 21 at some point. Hit Darvin Ham's end game adjustment. Great adjustment, little too late. Obviously, we cut that lead down to 3, and I was not happy with that LeBron shot. And yes, granted, if he had hit that shot, I would have been running around or celebrating like crazy.
Yeah.
But even when he does shoot them and make them, it's like I would just say, all right, never mind. But it's not at that point of the game. It was not the right shot selection for me. It was like about still like 40 seconds to a minute to go. He could have definitely taken Jamal Murray, who had 5 fouls at that time.
Back him down, right?
Back him down, maybe make him like you probably either get an easy layup or get either him or Jokic to foul, hopefully. But yeah, I think that Anthony Davis obviously started off slow, then the game plan changed to where instead of him being on Jokic, and there's sometimes you gotta tip your cap off. I think they both just canceled each other out in that game. But Darvin Ham put Rui Hachimura on Jokic and let AD play free safety on like Aaron Gordon.
And then be the help guy in the.
Yeah, and it worked. It
did work
incredibly. And then Austin Reeves took over in the third or fourth quarter, which is needed. Before we go to the Nuggets, or before I tell you what I want to see, what did you think of the game in general? You watched obviously the bit of the part I missed. So, what did you notice?
Yeah, I'm continue on with the Lakers right now because that's where
continue with the Lakers for sure.
Anthony Davis had an absolute monster game, so hats off to him, both ends of the floor.
Could have been a little better defensively just because of the Jokic matchup, but obviously still a monster. 3 steals, 2 blocks is still big.
Honestly, his overall team defense, right, it could have been better, obviously, because you allowed 120 plus points, right, which is not good. But I feel like in that game, they were just so hot that like you just had to outscore them. So it had to be like
it was literally the perfect game for
it had to be like
remember the third quarter, Anthony Davis's hand was like this on Jokic. Just at that point, he couldn't do anything. He had to smile.
Yeah. Like it's like a boxing match, bro. They're like back and forth boxing match, and like he had to throw haymaker after haymaker, right? So like in order for you to win that game, you had to outscore them. And this was my like thought process coming into the game. I feel like if it was a higher scoring game, the Nuggets will win, and if it was a low scoring game, you guys will win, right?
Yeah, because we were the best defensive team since the deadline.
Yeah, so this is why I'm like a little bit encouraged by the Lakers, because they've shown that like if it is a high scoring game, they could put up points, right?
Yeah.
So AD always had a monster game. LeBron did LeBron things with 20 plus points, and then you had also Rui Hachimura and Austin Reeves combined for 40 points as well.
Yeah,
which
but
is
a little.
killer.
I think it was a little too late because the starting guards, D'Lo struggled. He had a couple of shots in the third quarter. Schroeder only took 3 shots, and Reeves struggled a bit. So they needed one of them at least has to go off at the beginning if AD and LeBron are going, because clearly with the Nuggets, everybody was going off except like Aaron Gordon offensively. Like Bruce Brown off the bench went nuts as well. But yeah, you're right in terms of we shown the capability of coming back.
Yeah, so then basically for me, like obviously defense was why you lost the game. But if I were to pick one person, it would obviously be D'Angelo Russell. If it's more games like this high scoring games, he has to drop at least 15 points.
Yeah.
For you guys to have a chance.
There's the stat is if D'Angelo Russell scores more than 17 points, we're undefeated in the playoffs. Yeah. Less than that, I think we've lost every game or may have won one game.
Yeah. So like the adjustment that Darvin had made to put AD as the help. So every time Jokic did his move, he always spun into AD, and AD also helped Rui, and then Jokic had a point in the fourth quarter where he struggled a bit, but like that adjustment was really good. I feel like definitely you should start like Rui. Hachimura 100% should start next game in my opinion because he produced on the offensive.
For me, it depends, and we'll get into the game 2 matchup.
Yeah, but in my opinion, he should start because he did well
the offensive firepower
and also did well defensively as well.
Before we continue on, like what our thoughts should be over game 2 of the adjustments. Obviously, I'm watching this game with a lot of bias, so I have a lot of thoughts, especially that I did watch most of this game. The Nuggets, like I said, Jokic off the bat, monster, triple-double. You know, he's that unique center that he's not the back to the basket, but he could definitely post play. But then like back, obviously you as a Raptor fan have seen this, but not in his prime. Marcus Gasol, not obviously Jokic is not the defender Marcus Gasol was, but in terms of the offensive side, the guy could shoot. I don't think Jokic's shooting gets talked about a lot, like how Karl Towns does, you know, Miles Turner even. Jokic obviously showed that he could shoot the ball, shoot weird fadeaway shot, like unconventional, unathletic looking way, but
it's
it hits.
So funny because he's like so unathletic and he's just falling, like fading away and just like doing the little hooks and
funny,
stuff.
Yeah. And then the playmaking, right? Like like that's the key that like I thought Marcus Gasol was an elite playmaker as a center, but Jokic definitely is probably much better, much flashier. That pick and roll with him and Jamal Murray, he's such a big, like he's just holding the ball at the top of the key, and then one of either Murray or KCP, Bruce Brown, whoever's shooting hot will just come around him, and he's too big, right? So it's like even if you put like he's your point guard essentially on the court.
Yes, because he's bringing the ball up all the time.
Yeah,
too, right?
Which is pretty funny to see at times. But yeah, that key number one, Jokic just played. Jokic showed why he's the best center in the league. He's shown it in the playoffs. Jamal Murray had to be that guy, and he did it. Can he be consistent? Now, if he's consistent, then yes, the Lakers are definitely in trouble, and your prediction might be right. But if he's gonna be streaky, then we definitely have a chance. Obviously, the key, obviously him defensively is gonna be an issue because they're gonna put him pick and roll, so he's gotta figure that out. And Michael Malone's gotta figure that out, and obviously Bruce Brown off the bench. Nothing crazy happened, but they obviously I felt like they let loose a bit. Clearly, because they had a 21-point lead and almost blew it. It was a 3-point game at one point. It could have, you know, if LeBron hit that 3, it was a tie game, obviously. They definitely, I think Michael Malone, I don't know if the players just didn't adjust to the adjustment by Darvin Ham. So let's see if Michael Malone, because we all know what the Lakers are going to do. The adjustment, can Michael Malone counter that right now? And then, we go from there.
So for me, the keys to obviously the Nuggets for winning, obviously, first of all, that first quarter by Jokic was probably the best individual performance I've seen, like in a quarter by a player.
I think
other than Klay Thompson's 36-point quarter.
I think the offensive rebounds were like 7 to 2 defensive rebounds for the Nuggets.
So it's like he was the first ever player, I believe, to have 10+ rebounds and 5+ assists in a quarter.
And he almost had a triple-double in the first.
Yeah, he almost did.
Or double-double,
sorry. Double-double.
He was 2 points away.
Yeah, then obviously Jamal Murray showed up, became the second guy. The role players balled out. Brown, like I mentioned last time, as like he'll be really good off the bench. And obviously Contavious, Caldwell Pope.
Definitely an under the rating.
They combined for 37 points, which is huge. Eric Gordon did a pretty decent job on LeBron. Aaron Gordon, I think he did a pretty decent job on LeBron. But like, at the end of the day, LeBron's LeBron.
Here's the key adjustment. So once the Lakers, that's one of my key points I made. When Darvin had made that switch, Aaron Gordon was just static. Like he didn't really run around much. So AD was able to play free safety. So the key thing is, how is Aaron Gordon going to respond to that offensive matchup on AD?
Yeah, I'm mentioning the defensive side on LeBron.
For sure.
Yeah, so I'll get into that too. I have a point about that. Then also the adjustment, AD in the paint helping on Jokic. So for me, the adjustment that Denver Nuggets have to make is that they're going to have to get in a pick and roll game with Aaron Gordon to get AD out of the paint, because I remember last series when the Warriors had success is when they involved Anthony Davis in the pick and roll, got him out of the paint, and then just got a paint touch in and either finish at the rim or had a good paint touch and kick out for a 3.
Yeah. Definitely. Anything else for the Nuggets? Oh, you said you had something for Aaron Gordon on the offense. Oh yeah,
that's what it was. Aaron Gordon pick and roll.
No, you're right. I think the Lakers, now going to the key points of game, to watch out for game 2. Lakers definitely are not respecting the 3-point shot as much as they did with Curry and Thompson makes sense because they're Curry and Thompson, obviously the greatest shooter and top 3 shooter maybe all time. So they definitely need to respect the 3-point shooting a little bit, especially when they're hitting them. KCP has improved his 3-point shot. I've seen him on the Lakers, how he progressed that, and great pickup for the Nuggets. But the key for me is, again, most likely, if D'Lo continues to start, either way, you're right. I think Hachimura should start, but I think D'Lo needs to come off the bench, personally, because Bruce Brown today said they're picking apart D'Lo on purpose because he's not a good defender, right? He could be that spark plug off the bench. I don't know. There's a report that he's not going to be too happy about that. Obviously, I don't give a crap about that. I just want to win games if that's the best option, because Schroeder definitely could guard Murray like how he did Curry in a way, and Murray is no Steph Curry. So he could definitely go around screens. He's quick guy. So D'Angelo Russell either step up or he definitely bring him off the bench. And the key thing is, I know Michael Malone's a good coach. He will find an adjustment of Darvin Ham's adjustment. So the key thing is, can Darvin Ham, who I criticized of making in-game adjustments, made a great one, can he make another in-game adjustment if Michael Malone and the Nuggets figure that out?
Pick and roll starts happening.
And the other key thing for me is, can he get those guys back into foul trouble?
Yeah, that was key, because there was a challenge where Murray fouled him. They called the foul on Murray.
Yeah.
And then that was his fifth.
That was
and
so
then
funny.
They challenged it to Jokic being the
fourth, I think.
Giving Jokic his 4th foul. And then they won the challenge, and everyone's celebrating because they won the challenge even though it was still a foul.
Yeah.
That was just pretty jokes.
And the key thing is, the obvious thing is just rebounding. If the Lakers control the rebounding, then they could have easily won that game for sure. So the key things for the Lakers to win is rebounding. The key thing for the Nuggets to win is just to do what they're doing and figure out the adjustment of how to fix that late game adjustment by Darvin Ham.
So what's your game 2 prediction?
Lakers. I mean, okay, I don't project Nuggets to, obviously that Lakers was a little biased to the jump to the conclusion, but the reason is just because I don't see the Nuggets being this perfect. The same thing with the Heat. I guess the difference is, I don't see the Nuggets being this perfect, but I know the Lakers had a great shooting night as well, so it's a little tough. But, I feel like the Lakers will get the split here. It's tough because, I don't think we mentioned it last pod, but both teams are undefeated at home. So it's going to be coming down to who's the first road team to win, unless it's Game 7, which obviously the Lakers need to win that road game. Otherwise, the Nuggets supposedly should win in 7, right? And this has been a fun series. We've seen the exciting aspect of the close game.
I mean, it's only been one game.
But no, the game, that game alone, yeah. I'm watching different analysts, and I was listening to Halford and Bruff, the Toronto basketball analyst. He's like, yeah, this game, this game was exciting for sure.
It was an incredible game. So as an NBA fan, I want 7. I know you're gonna hate that because you're gonna go to
I'm gonna be
stressed
stressed
town
for sure.
And then so my prediction would be Nuggets defend home court. Okay. But I also believe the Lakers will also defend home court. So I'd say Nuggets take game 2, but I think the Lakers should be taking game 3 and 4.
Yeah, I mean, we'll talk about game 3 and 4.
Yeah, but that's for future.
Depending on how this goes.
But yeah, I think the Denver Nuggets will take a 2-0
lead. Anything else? Any big matchups you want to see? Any big things?
No, I think we got it all, bro.
Yeah, all right. So moving on, we got some big news yesterday. We kind of had this feeling that it was going to happen last episode. Doc Rivers officially did get fired by the Philadelphia 76ers. Obviously, you thought it was definitely happening and definitely deserved. I thought it was a little harsh, but I wouldn't say it wasn't deserved. And the reason why is, when you look at the aftermath, the reason why I don't say it's fully deserved on him is just the Sixers gave up on him in Game 7. Harden, no show. Embiid, really not a show either.
Embiid was a no show.
Yeah, so that's why I'm like, you got to play for your coach. Now, the other flip side is, it depends. I don't know. We don't know what happens behind the locker room. Rasheed Wallace actually played for Doc Rivers in the Celtics when they lost to the Lakers in 2010. He did say he deserved to be fired because you need someone you could play for, and obviously it's a players' league, but he does not know how to make any in-game adjustments. So that's a little tough. Before I ask you some quick fire, who should be the guy available, because I heard certain names like Sam Cassell, I think, was on the coaching staff. I'm going to pull up I think it was a little report. So this is from a guy named Michael Scott. Quietly, there has been a belief for a while that Mike D'Antoni would be a coaching candidate for the Sixers if Rivers is relieved. So this is before he got fired officially, or relieved of his coaching duties while Harden was a Sixer. So this thing kind of annoys me a little bit because like I understand it's a players' league, but you're catering to a guy that might be leaving, but obviously he'll stay if it's because Harden did say publicly that not publicly, sorry. There's a report that Harden does not want to play for Rivers anymore. So maybe that's the reason why they're fired. And if you're bringing in the only coach that he hasn't great success with, I get it. But we haven't seen like Harden sucks at closeout games. I'm sorry. Like I've never seen someone not as clutch as him in the closeout game. He's had certain big moments in the playoffs, but in this case, yeah. What do you think of that? If the report is true?
Did it not, like, wasn't there a report last year about it too when Rivers on the hot seat?
Yeah, if they were gonna blow it to the Raptors. Yeah.
So like isn't there a GM or president the
Yep, it's the what's his name? Daryl Morey.
So the old guy in Rockets.
Yeah, so they're pretty much making the Philadelphia Rockets at this point because PJ Tucker's also there.
I mean, yeah. So like, yes, Harden has to play better. Don't get me wrong. Embiid has to play better. It is like for me, it was on the players more than coach. But like at the end of the day, your coach has to be like your best guy because at the end of the day, the series is between the coaches as well, of matter of adjustments, game from game, in game, all right. So if Doc Rivers wasn't showing up, which he didn't for the last 3 years, got eliminated in the second round 3 years in a row, something had to change and they had to get to the next level. And I think Doc did build like a good team, like he developed a good team, like he coached a good team in the regular season. Obviously, they're good at seeding. So I feel like if they could get someone that takes them to the next level, they just have to take the opportunity now because obviously it failed 3 years in a row, right?
Yeah, I mean, it sucks because coaches do get short leashes. So that's my question to you next. Whenever Doc Rivers has left a team, he got a job pretty quick. So do you think Doc Rivers will get a job quick as a head coach again in any available spot? Or do you think he might take a break? Or do you think he might come back as a head coach later or be an assistant coach for the time being, kind of like what Mike Brown did?
I think it'll take at least a year, in my opinion. I don't think he's getting something right away. So I don't know if he will take the year off or just like the opportunity is not there.
Or take an assistant coaching position.
Yeah. But if I were him, I would just take a year. Like at the end of the day, like you are a solid head coach. You have a title, right?
Just one title though, which is
I mean, at the end of the day,
there's a stat like he has a horrible record in Game 7s as well.
Yeah, that's true. And he also like blew a bunch of series leads.
Yeah.
So that's why I don't think he'll get one right away. But I definitely believe that he'll be a head coach in the league again.
Okay. Sure. So this is before we transition off to the NBA lottery here. Just fired coaches in general. I know we talked a little bit last pod, but I just have a quick rapid fire. You don't have to like go into great detail. One sentence is fine as well. So I'm going to give you the list of the coaches that did get fired, and do you think they get a job right away? Obviously, we talked about Doc Rivers. Or do you think, and if they do get a head coaching job, when do you think will happen? Or if they have no chance whatsoever? So the first person is Steven Silas, was fired by the Houston Rockets. Yeah, what do you think?
At best, if he gets something right away, it'll be an assistant job.
Yeah.
I don't think he'll get a head coaching job for a fair bit now.
There were some turmoil with the Rockets, and if you have a young team like that and you can't handle it, how are you going to handle the big boys? So, yeah, I agree with you. There'll be an assistant maybe, and then hopefully he finds his way back. Nick Nurse, your boy.
He should get one. All right, he did take the Raptors to the next level, which was a championship. Obviously, the second year, coach of the year.
Yep.
Third year was Tampa year, so it was kind of like
up and down. It was
hard, man. Yeah. It was like hard. And then last year they made the playoffs. And then this year was probably my first real, all right, Nick Nurse, what are you doing type of year, right?
Yeah. I mean, there's openings like Philly's opening, Milwaukee's opening. And speaking of Milwaukee, Mike Budenholzer.
I don't know if like he should, in my opinion.
He got a job right away from Atlanta when he got fired from Atlanta to Milwaukee. Again, it's like a Doc Rivers thing for me. He doesn't make adjustments that I've noticed. Giannis has publicly come out and said that too. That being said, I'm not saying Giannis hated him or anything. He was just saying like adjustments should have been made. He's definitely that regular season coach for me. Like he'll definitely take, like, for example, your current Raptor team. If you were to hire him, he would probably make you a playoff team, but then I think that's the ceiling for him. So he's definitely that type of hire. I don't know if I might be missing some spots that are open, but Yeah, I think that he might get a job, but I could see him taking a year off. He did, it was sad news for him. He did coach in the playoffs when I think his brother passed away. So during the playoffs as well. So it was a sad time to also coach. Um, so yeah, no, I agree with you. He should get a job, but I don't know if it'll be this year or it'll take a while.
Yeah.
If anything opens.
Yeah.
I'll save the last one later because Dwayne Casey fired by the Pistons, but I'm not 100% sure that I think he's in the front office though right now, but if he wanted to be a head coach, do you think he gets one?
I don't think he gets one, in my opinion.
Okay. And the last one is, I think it's an obvious answer, Monty Williams.
Yeah, it's disrespectful if he doesn't, in my opinion.
I think it's instant. I think it's definitely an instant hire.
Yeah, for sure.
Like I said, Philly's open, Toronto's open, Milwaukee's open. Those are, depending on what you guys do, getting into the lottery here. But yeah, I think he should definitely get a job ASAP.
Yeah, 100%. In my opinion, him and Nick Nurse should get a job right away. All right, so on Tuesday, the NBA draft lottery happened, so we're going to start talking about that a little bit. The results were the Spurs got the number one overall pick, right?
I got him right here, yeah. So the Spurs actually moved up 2 spots and won the lottery. Charlotte also moved up 2 spots, won the lottery. Portland, they moved up 2 spots as well.
So those are 3 winners.
Those are the top 3. Houston fell out, dropped off 2 spots, so they were highest odds were the second. They dropped to 4, and Detroit had the worst record in the NBA and moved down to 5. So biggest losers are right there. Everything else fell into place from 6 to 14. Your Raptors stay at 13.
Yeah.
So, Spurs got Wembanyama, Victor Wembanyama, the French guy. As long as they make the pick, which I think at this point it's for sure.
If ESPN flew all the way to Paris just to interview him, and I feel like the guy who celebrated this, who was repping the Spurs, like just let out a little "let's go."
Yeah,
I'm pretty sure they're drafting
Wembanyama. Even after, like, you saw a video of Wembanyama like celebrating he was not a Rocket when the 4th pick came, and I think the interview afterwards was essentially him like, yeah, I'm a Spur and I'm ready to win. So obviously for me, the biggest winner, obviously the Spurs, but also Wembanyama, and not just because he's going to be the first overall pick, it's also because the team he goes to. Guess who were the last 2 first overall picks that the Spurs made?
Tim Duncan.
Yeah, in 97, and there was one before that.
David Robinson.
And what do they all have in common?
They're big.
Yeah, so they're big men. They were big time talents. I believe they were generational during their time. Of course, Tim Duncan, in my opinion, is a very underrated superstar, not talked about a lot in the top 10 conversations. And Wembanyama has Greg Popovich as his coach. He knows how to manage young guys, young superstars, clearly.
And Frenchmen.
And Tony Parker. Tony Parker. And for me it was especially because he teamed up with Popovich. Popovich is one of the most successful coaches of all time, right? Arguably top 3 coach, depending on what order you want to put it in. He definitely, I don't think Popovich will retire anytime soon unless he's forced to. But yeah, Spurs he's teaming up with Keldon Johnson, Devin Vassell. I didn't watch much Spurs.
Who did watch much Spurs other than Spurs fans?
I don't even know if they did, to be honest.
Yeah, right. They were probably just praying for the lottery.
Yeah. The concern for me is definitely his stature. We saw Chet Holmgren get injured bumping into like LeBron last year in the workout runs they do before the season, the Drew League. And obviously, I don't know how much Alexei Pokashevsky played for the OKC Thunder as well. So definitely to look at, for those of you guys that don't know who Victor Wembanyama is, he is a Frenchman. Definitely, he's like 7'5", I think.
He's 7.
Shoots the ball insane, could score, blocks everything. So
he's very mobile for his size too.
Yeah, very mobile for his size. So the Spurs got a good one. We'll see how it goes. I'm definitely the best spot for him. You want to talk about the biggest loser in this case?
I mean, sucks to suck Detroit, right? Like, I mean, I feel like Cade was injured for a bit too, right?
Cade was injured for most of that year.
So that's why, like, I didn't really expect him to have the worst record, but like with the injuries, yeah, of course, and it sucks. But like, if they had gotten the first pick, a big 3 of potentially in the future of Cade, Cunningham, Jaden Ivey, and Victor Wembanyama would be pretty
Definitely
insane.
would have made a decision on Jalen Duren or James Wiseman, but they're also a loser because they can't even get Scoot Henderson, and they can't also get what's his name,
Brandon
Miller from Alabama. So like those guys are the projected 2 and 3. It's flipped everywhere. Like it's Victor Wembanyama at the top, then pick your poison between the two of them. The other top prospects I've heard a lot about were the Thompson twins from the Overtime League, Ozer and Amen, I think.
Yeah.
Yeah, and so like and another winner, sorry, is in my opinion Portland. And the reason why, and it actually depends on which way you look at it, right? You have Portland's got options now, and the options are you trade the pick and help Dame out right now, or you make the pick. I think Scoot Henderson might fall to them because Charlotte already has LaMelo Ball, so they might go Brandon Miller. Or even if they take Brandon Miller, they have a guy that could still. I'm not saying he's off. They're off. These guys are off the bat going to help Dame, but who knows, right? People can surprise us a rookie year, or you just trade Dame and rebuild and gather more picks. So I'm gonna transition this to a little bit. Bleacher Report came out with some article, an article that says it's labeled
Potential
realistic
trades.
trades. Realistic.
They're never realistic.
Yeah. So yeah, it says realistic trades post NBA lottery finding homes for your boy. You're wearing his All-Star shirt, Pascal Siakam, and more, right? But I'll get into that one in a second here. The first one is this one seems a little realistic to me. Dallas Mavericks will trade their 10th overall pick, Davis Bertans, and Jaden Hardy for Miles Turner.
Yeah, I feel like, especially how their season ended, and potential Kyrie leaving, they'll probably add like a star. And
even if Kyrie comes back, this is a definitely need. Their defense was horrendous. They traded away Dorian Finney-Smith. Miles Turner's a stretch big, so it doesn't block the paint for Luka or Kyrie. If assuming Kyrie comes back, and he could shoot the ball as well.
Yeah, Miles Turner is like a good big to have in today's NBA.
Yeah, I think his only concerns were health.
Yeah, health is concerned.
Yeah, moving on. There's 4 trades, so this is the second one. If the Raptors do not say yes to this trade, it's definitely mind-blowing to me. And I won't be surprised because the team I'm going to name they're making the trade with is the Washington Wizards. And you know how they traded Rui Hachimura away for Kendrick Nunn. So the trade is Washington will trade away Daniel Gafford, Johnny Davis, Isaiah Todd, and their 8th pick for a sign-and-trade Fred VanVleet only. Not realistic, first off.
Bro, man, stop getting my hopes up. Don't get my hopes up. That's not.
But
happening.
That's an instant yes for the Raptor fan, right?
Yeah, 100%.
Right, Fred's gonna command 30 mil probably.
Yeah, he's gonna
Washington
command a lot of money.
is doing Washington things.
Then
you get the 8th pick
8 and 13
so far.
Yeah.
It's a win. I don't see this happening at all.
It's not happening, but it's an instant yes.
You're throwing another piece with Fred. That's for sure. Like maybe a Precious Achua or something. But
I hope not. I hope they propose this.
but like, I don't know who wrote this article exactly. Let me give him Zach Buckley. Not realistic, buddy. But that one especially. Next one.
At least thank you for writing something we could talk about.
Yeah. Magic accelerate their rebuild or retool, however you're going to put it. They're trading away Gary Harris, Jonathan Isaac, Jalen Suggs, and the 11th pick to the Chicago Bulls for Zach LaVine.
That's big.
It's big. If I'm Chicago, it's an instant no, right? Jonathan Isaac hasn't played much.
Yeah, so like that's not even a piece.
And Gary Harris is just a salary filler. He's like a all right role player at this point of his career.
Yeah.
Suggs, once upon a time, Raptors were supposed to take Suggs, and people were clowning him for taking Scotty Barnes. Well, look at you guys now. You guys obviously prefer Scotty. Suggs hasn't been anything special, and to be fair, I haven't watched much Orlando ball. This is an instant no from the Chicago side of things.
100%.
Even Orlando, I'm like, why ruin something young that you guys are going? You did well last year. Later on in the season.
I mean, you're the 11th pick.
You have the rookie of the year in Paolo Banchero, who killed it.
100% killed it.
So, yeah, I don't think this is realistic, and I don't think either team should be accepting this trade.
Yeah. For like Orlando, you were the 11th pick for a reason. That means you actually you showed something.
You were definitely playing contender-ish. I don't know.
No, you weren't really playing contender, but you weren't at the bottom.
Yeah.
You weren't the F tier of basketball this year.
moving on, last one. This is where your boy comes in here. Toronto receives Anthony Simons, Nazir Little, Keon Johnson. I don't know too much about him. And the third pick, just for Siakam.
I mean,
Not realistic.
I've been on the rebuild mode for the Raptors personally, and so obviously I'm gonna say instant yes, but that's not happening.
You get Simons and a third pick.
Simons and a third pick,
and the third pick could potentially be either Scoot, your future point guard, or Brandon Miller, depending on I think this trade from Portland. Again, I've seen Portland made bad trades before. This is one of them. They should definitely throw in like a OG or someone.
They didn't
like Portland should ask for that. I'm not saying Toronto should give it, but yeah, this is an instant yes from Toronto side of things.
Instant yes, 100%.
Portland. I mean, we'll get into the Dame talk in the off season more, but there's so much because Dame has publicly come out and said I don't want to rebuild if I'm staying in Portland. So there are reports that they're looking to trade away that pick.
The only question I have for Portland is how desperate are you?
Yeah, I mean, they've shown it before. With the Norm Powell trade.
Yeah, so they're desperate. So So they might just play off emotions and make a stupid trade like that. But at the end of the day, it's Portland, and I think if their GM has like general common sense, that
just trade them and rebuild.
If you just gotta either trade Dame, rebuild, or if you're doing that trade potentially, which I doubt you gotta ask for like more pieces, 100%.
Yeah. So my last comment on that is, it's probably an ownership thing from Portland side of things. Because like Dame's gonna bring dollars in, right? Like people travel from BC, from where we are, to Portland to watch Dame play. If Dame doesn't play, then you better hope someone like LeBron, if they're playing the Lakers, play, or like Kawhi, or like Joel Embiid or Jokic or whatever, right?
Yeah, Giannis.
Yeah. So those are the trades. I think only one of them was like probably realistic, which was the Miles Turner one. And the last thing before we close out the NBA lottery stuff, before we get into the NHL talk for the day, is Woj had said this prior to the draft lottery, I believe. This is the most highly anticipated player to enter the NBA, talking about Wembanyama. Maybe the greatest prospect in the history of team sports. Now, I'm not going to go history. I get it, he's a worldwide athlete, so maybe that's why the hype is higher than LeBron 03. But let's talk about last decade. Keep in mind he said team sports. So this is my question for you. Is it Wembanyama? Is it Connor McDavid? Or is it Trevor Lawrence? Because remember, Trevor Lawrence had the highest grade since Andrew Luck. At that point, it was a tank for Trevor, like from the minute he played in that championship game against Alabama in his rookie or freshman year. So if you were to rank the history part of things, right, how would you rank these three in terms of the hype? Don't talk about Trevor Lawrence now. Talk about Trevor Lawrence during his draft year itself.
I mean,
and McDavid.
Being in Canada, of course, we're going to hear a lot of hockey talk.
Yeah.
So that gives McDavid the little advantage. But at the end of the day, I still believe it's McDavid one for me. Especially because of all those like highlights we watched of him just killing it in the juniors, the World Juniors as well, when Team Canada won gold that year. So for me, I might just rank it, like, I'm not saying like talent wise, I'm just ranking by like
the hype,
like what I've been like exposed to the most.
Okay.
Could be different from you, could be different for anyone else.
Yeah.
And for me, it was personally McDavid, Lawrence, and Wembanyama. That's how I've been exposed to it.
I agree with McDavid. I've never seen the greatest talent in hockey, right? Speed, scale, everything's there. I disagree with you about Trevor Lawrence, just on the worldwide aspect of things. Wembanyama was shown a couple of years before he was even draft eligible. He's a French player. There are clips of him crossing up Rudy Gobert during the French national team practices. So I'm going to go Wembanyama 2, and I'm going to go Trevor Lawrence 3. Obviously, there's no draft in soccer really. So, and then MLB, we don't know much till like years down the line. So yeah, and I would go Wembanyama 2. I think McDavid's still by far.
My only like way to fight back to that is because like the moment, like it could be the same for Wembanyama as well, but for me, the moment I heard of Trevor Lawrence was like, yeah, he is gonna be the number 1 overall pick, and he was 3 years away.
Yeah.
So that's why,
Yeah,
like,
no, it's a good argument. It's
I've been
fair.
more exposed to that than Wembanyama.
So
Obviously, for me, like, yeah, I saw those clips against Rudy Gobert, but like for me, when I first like saw Wembanyama properly play, was the game against the G League Ignite with him
Scoot Henderson.
versus Scoot Henderson, and I just saw those, like, watch those highlights, and like, okay, yeah, he is number one.
It's just for the aspect of like a 7-4. Like, we've seen a Trevor, not exactly Trevor Lawrence type player, but I'm saying like we've seen the hype of Andrew Luck, Peyton Manning, right? John Elway in the past. Like, we haven't physically seen John Elway, but like the hype years down the line. Wembanyama, 7'5" guy that could shoot, defend, like take big steps and step back three, not even like catch and shoot either. So I mean, yeah, it's fair argument, but I think we both agree, McDavid, and we definitely disagree with Woj in this case. For
Yeah,
sure.
I mean, Wembanyama is a demigod. He's what every 2K my player wants to be,
Yeah,
right?
exactly.
Yeah.
Comment down below, though, what do you guys think? If you agree with us that McDavid should be one, or it should be Wembanyama one, or even Trevor Lawrence at this point. But yeah, let us know. And
Yeah, for my last point, I'm like, if your nickname is McJesus, I think you should be number one.
yeah, for sure.
On to the NHL, we had a Game 7 on Monday where the Dallas Stars faced the Seattle Kraken, and Dallas prevailed with a 2-1 victory and earned the right to face Vegas in the Western Conference Finals.
Yeah, it was like, from what I've, like, again, I missed a little bit of it, but it was a goalie battle when I got home. From what I was listening on the radio as well on the drive home. You know, there's actually a fun fact I'm gonna tell you. Peter DeBoer, Dallas's head coach, for those of you who don't know, is 7-0 in Game 7 in the playoffs, I believe. I think that's what I heard on Halford and Bruff, I believe.
That's insane.
So definitely the opposite of Doc Rivers.
For sure, opposite of Doc Rivers.
Yeah. Congrats, obviously, Dallas. Ottinger, like you said on the last episode, that it was gonna come down to the goalies, and Ottinger was obviously the better goalie.
I mean, they both performed well. Like, Grubauer actually had like a really good game as well.
Yeah.
It's just a matter of fact of like, I didn't say Ottinger needed to be better, but I said Ottinger needed to be good, and he was good.
Yeah, but it's time to give her props to Seattle. Hopefully eventual rivals, so we could have some back and forth. But as of right now, Seattle, let's see if they'll come back next year. I think most of their roster is signed, if I'm not mistaken. But can they add a piece to help this team? But it's definitely, no one thought they were going to be Colorado, right? So the fact that you even took Dallas to 7, it was big for sure. So nothing to be sad about if you're a Kraken fan. And the people from Seattle, it's actually big for the market as well, because even like people talk about the Seahawks and the Mariners a lot, and now that the Kraken showed that they're good, they're in the playoffs, like complete opposite, like complete 180 from last year. They definitely, a lot of like Seattle residents, from what I heard from when I was listening to the radio, that they're happy. So
I mean, it was a good year for sports in Seattle because Mariners made the playoffs. The Seahawks made the playoffs.
Yeah.
And then now Kraken obviously made the playoffs.
Yeah.
I mean,
so now the question is, can they carry it on to the next year?
Yeah. I mean, the way they built the roster is like they have 4 lines. They have good pairs.
Don't have an elite player. So if they have an elite player,
yeah,
they
so that's what they're gonna search for. I mean, Grubauer showed that, like, proved. Yeah, he struggled in his first year in Seattle, but this year he proved, especially in the playoffs.
Yeah.
One of the main reasons they won against Colorado, and obviously kept them in it for the whole game for against the Stars in Game 7.
Martin Jones obviously was a big factor during the regular season. Like, people were like, "Oh, Martin, they might not be doing well," because Grubauer, like you said, was hurt some of the year, but Martin Jones obviously held his own. But yeah, let's move on. Now it's Dallas and Vegas, like you mentioned. Who has home ice?
It's Vegas. They're the best team in the conference.
They're the best team. Okay, so let's quickly preview this. For me, it's gonna be a goalie matchup. But actually, there's one funny thing I need to say, that Peter DeBoer is versing his old team.
Yeah, that's
so
true.
I completely slipped my mind until I heard it on the radio, I think yesterday. So there's motivation there for sure. It's gonna be for me. It's gonna be a goalie thing. Can Golden Knights defense help Adin Hill if it is Adin Hill in net? I don't know what the status of Brossoit is, or obviously Logan Thompson.
It's gonna be Aiden Hill, I believe.
Yeah, and then can Ottinger not have an inconsistent series? And the other key thing before I let you go, are we gonna see Jason Robertson step up now? Is the big question.
So for me, Vegas has done very well to protect their goalies with blocking shots, just holding it down defensively.
Yeah.
And Aiden Hill did perform well, right? I was a bit skeptical. I was like, "Yo, just play Jonathan Quick because he's an experienced guy. He had a good year last year. Yes, he struggled this year, but like he knows what he's doing." But Aiden Hill had like 30 plus, I think 36 saves in game 6.
Yeah, he gave up 2 shot goals on 2 shots at that beginning, and obviously
And then
after
locked
that
it
he
out
just locked
after.
it up.
So like Aiden Hill could make that save for sure, and Vegas is doing well to help him out and protect him. And yes, one thing for Jake Ottinger was like credit to him is that like he got pulled twice against Seattle and he bounced back both games.
Yeah.
He got pulled in game 4, bounced back game 5, pulled in game 6, bounced back game 7. So obviously goalie edge goes to Dallas, but the thing about Vegas is that they have 4 lines going right now, but also Dallas has 4 lines going right now.
Yeah.
Like throughout the playoffs, obviously, Rupe Hintz, Joe Pavelski, but like the lines where Wyatt Johnson is playing, he produced some goals. Jamie Benn at times stepped up. Tyler Seguin stepped up and scored some goals as well. So defensively, I feel like, of course, as long as Miro Heiskanen is healthy, I still believe in Dallas' defense, but Vegas' defense, I feel like we're getting the 2 most complete teams in the Western Conference this year,
Yeah.
in my opinion. So for me, it just comes down to Jason Robertson.
Yeah, because he's obviously their best player. Obviously, he hasn't shown it in the playoffs. Rube Hintz was their best player. Joe Pavelski was the second best player. Jake Ottinger obviously throughout had rough patches. So, yeah, the home ice is obviously Golden Knights, so there's an advantage there for that end. So, what do you think is going to happen? Prediction. Game 1, I believe, is on Friday. So,
Yeah, it is on Friday. I believe the Vegas Golden Knights will end it in 6. They'll win 4-2 just because they have their 4 lines going right now. They're in good momentum, and I feel like they'll be able to protect Aiden Hill well. And I feel like Aiden Hill shown in the Edmonton series that he could make that big save. So I'm going to pick the Vegas Golden Knights, even though I really don't want to.
key thing is Mark Stone's health for sure. He obviously after back surgery played so well. So his health and how he's gonna be obviously he's been killing it in the playoffs as well. But for me, I'm gonna go Dallas, and main reason is Ottinger. I feel like I know he struggled a little bit against Seattle. I'm gonna go in 7, Dallas. And I'm going to say Ottinger steals a couple of games. And I'm hoping for a Jason Robertson come up. But I still think Rupe Hintz has been extremely insane this playoffs. Or I think the score ranked him as the favorite to be
He's
the
100%
Conn
the
Smythe
favorite, yeah.
for the Conn Smythe spot. I thought it was actually Kachuk, but we'll get into that game in a second. Yeah, I'm gonna go Stars in 7.
Okay, I mean, that's fair. It is a toss-up, in my opinion. I feel like just the way that both teams performed in the playoffs, they were able to win multiple ways. One is goaltending, one is scoring, right? So, like, they were able to win multiple ways. So, it's going to be an exciting one for me.
Yeah.
I'm looking forward to it for sure. Sucks that, like, these games are going to be on at the same time as the NBA
Yeah,
games.
for sure. Because I'm obviously going to be more paying attention to the Laker game. So
Yeah.
you obviously have to bounce back and forth for me there.
Yeah, so it's going to be, like, flipping channels and
Yeah,
stuff.
or we could just set up a secondary
Yeah.
device. But speaking of Kachuk, I mentioned him earlier. Game 1 Thursday. We already previewed this in the last episode. If you missed it, check that out. I think you had the Panthers winning,
I said Panthers in 6.
and I think I had Canes in 6.
Yeah, I went bold for sure.
Yeah. So game 1, just quick. How do you think is gonna play? Home ice is for Carolina.
Carolina has been good on the home this year, but Florida has been good on the road this year.
Yeah,
they took 3 from Boston
and Toronto.
They took 3 in Toronto. So as long as Bobrovsky is just playing how Bobrovsky is playing right now, and obviously Kachuk is playing like Kachuk, I feel like it'll be a split, and I feel like Florida will steal game 1 today because this will be a day of uploading, obviously.
I feel like it's gonna be split, but I'm going Canes game one for right now. I'll decide on game two once we watch game one, but right now I'm gonna stick with Canes. I feel like they're one of the most complete teams for sure, even with the injuries of how they're. I mean, I guess we wouldn't say complete with the injuries, but even without their injuries, they've been succeeding well.
They've been pretty dominant, yeah.
All right, let's move on to probably the biggest NHL news of the day from last night, carrying over this morning. The Arizona Coyotes stadium vote has not passed. So just a little backstory context here. The Arizona Coyotes, once known as the Phoenix Coyotes, moved from Phoenix to Glendale. Problem was the Arizona, and they renamed to Arizona, and Arizona were not a good team. So the problem was they didn't generate enough revenue, and there's reports out there that they couldn't afford to pay the rent, and they didn't pay the rent, and Glendale essentially kicked them out. And come this year that they were going to play in Tempe, but the problem was they had to get the vote to pass. So in the meantime, they're playing in Arizona State University. They named it Mullet Arena. It's only a 3,000 cap arena, so it's pretty funny seeing NHL players play it in a junior rink or whatever. And their hopes were to get the vote passed. So in I think 3 years' time that they'll get this $2 billion sports complex built in Tempe and Arizona stays. That vote didn't pass. They have no home as of other than the 2 years they have remaining in Arizona. ASU. I've been saying that they need to relocate, but before we get into that topic, I was listening to Halford and Bruff this morning, and they brought in the local reporter, and you could hear it in his voice that he was emotional because he grew up a hockey guy. He wanted to cover hockey, and he's a local. I think he's a local beat reporter, but he was covering the Coyotes, and there's and he feels defeated that they are going to relocate or sell and relocate, and that's where I feel bad because they are diehard fans. At the end of the day, yeah, it's not the biggest market there. The Cardinals are ahead of them. The Suns are ahead of them, right? The Diamondbacks are ahead of them. But they are still diehard fans in hockey there. You obviously have legend and Shane Doan who played there their whole career. So it sucks for the fan base. It sucks for the beat reporters. Hopefully those reporters do get a new job. But I've been saying that they should relocate. I don't know what Gary Bettman is seeing there. It's been a shit show from I don't know how long now. And the funny story is they had once upon a time they had Gretzky as their coach. So
yeah.
I don't know. Do you think they should relocate at this point, or do you think they should work out another tenancy deal?
I mean, first of all, yeah, it just sucks for the people who actually really support the team, and sucks for the reporters because they potentially might lose their job.
Yeah.
And that they've been enjoying as well. So I really do feel for them. But yeah, I mean, at the end of the day, a relocation has to happen, right? At this point,
Yeah.
what can you do?
Yeah,
right?
I mean, no one's going to the games. Clearly, they went to a 3,000 cap arena. Imagine if they do end up staying. You're Adam Fantilli, and imagine if Coyotes got the second pick, and Adam Fantilli coming out of Michigan's like, what the hell? I'm playing in college arena again. Or even Bedard, the biggest superstar, is going, but obviously it didn't work out like that. So yeah, I think the Coyotes need to relocate at this point. It's better for hockey overall. It's been going back and forth. I don't know, can they work out a miracle? Sure, but clearly Glendale kicked them out. Phoenix didn't work out. Tempe didn't work out. I don't know about Scottsdale. I don't know how many other cities are there really.
I don't know
in Arizona, but
Arizona,
I only have heard of Tempe through this story.
Yeah.
Otherwise, I've heard of obviously Glendale and Scottsdale and stuff like that, and Phoenix obviously. But that being said, they're even listening to reports that they are most likely going to be as early as next season that they might be relocating. So the Score came up with an article. I also was listening to Greg Wyshynski on Halford and Bruff in the morning. There's 10 options. I threw one in myself. If you want to name certain relocations, there's some realistic ones. I'll tell you which ones are the realistic ones, and then there's some dream ones.
All right. So, I mean, what if we just get them and put them in our Sun God ice rink, right?
Well,
Imagine.
you mean when or former mayor wanted a Surrey arena?
Like how Doug McCallum wanted a Surrey, was it
Well,
60,000?
I'll tell you this much: they're not on this list.
Yeah, of course. I mean, Brenda, please don't, man. I don't want to pay
Yeah,
extra money.
that's
We're already broke.
We're not political, so we're not gonna go into that
Yeah, so
anymore.
like,
But
yeah,
yeah, there's some realistic options. I ranked it accordingly, but there's one Canadian team, two Canadian teams I've put on here. Sorry, cities I've put on here. But the rest are American.
I mean, what if we go like international, and what if we just change your name to
not gonna happen.
change your name to
Not gonna happen.
change your name to Thunder and send them to Jalandhar, right? Right?
Not happening.
Like Jalandhar.
All right.
For those who don't know, Jalandhar is a city in India. So like, what if we just send them to India?
No, we're good. We need them here for sure.
Yeah, I know. Yeah, for sure. North of the U.S. or Canada, obviously.
Yeah. So, what do you think are there are some realistic ones? So let's start it right away. Who do you think are some cities or states?
I mean, Quebec, right, was one.
Quebec is the one, but again, that's more of a long shot. People are saying, but they were the one Canadian team I had.
Was there
bring back the Nordiques essentially, but
wasn't there like a couple in Texas, like Austin?
Not Austin,
or
but
is
the
it
other
Houston?
one. Houston.
Yeah.
Houston is the favorite right now.
Oh.
They might Tillman Fertitta, the owner of the Rockets. It depends on how he wants to run it. They're saying that Houston is definitely the favorite. Think of like cities around that area for sure that are the favorites.
Around Houston?
Like not in Texas, but like in that like area.
Bro, I don't know the map of US that
Like think of like the divisions of NBA and NHL.
I mean, I doubt anyone wants to go back. There's Atlanta option.
Yeah, that was like something I threw in there, but
Yeah.
I've heard reports it's just because of TNT offices. Obviously, Atlanta failed twice. I don't want them to see them come again.
Yeah.
It's only because the TNT offices
Yeah.
are now because the deal there.
What else is there?
So I'll quickly run through it then. Salt Lake in Utah was
Yeah.
another one. They only have the Jazz, so it's a good spot there, most
And
likely.
they have an MLS team too. I believe.
Yeah. Kansas City was another one that they were saying. And then the rest are, I think those are the three favorites. One long shot is definitely they contact the new owner of the Phoenix Suns and be a tenant, or hopefully, I don't think Ishbia is going to buy them, but contact Ishbia to maybe come back to Phoenix. I think it's a long shot. A couple of names that people threw out. Portland. It will be, I don't think it's a good area. Maybe it is, but definitely that Pacific Northwest rivalry will pick up like how the Cascadia and the MLS is. Sacramento, I don't think that's a great spot. Milwaukee, that's one. So that's Green Bay and the Bucks.
Just get Giannis to join us.
And you're going to hate this one, and I hate this one. Bring a second team to Toronto, and I don't want that.
What? Why?
That was a fun option to score put in, but I don't think it's going to happen, obviously.
No
Just
way.
because, you know how you have two New York teams and like LA teams and
So
stuff.
like, we already hate one Toronto team. You don't make us hate another.
Yeah,
Right?
no. Maybe they pin them against each other, but yeah. No, so these are the 10 options. I think the realistic ones they're saying are Houston and Salt Lake. Kansas City was also there. So these are where if you were to move them out of these options, which one do you think is the best hockey market in your opinion?
I mean, of course, I wouldn't say Kansas City, but I would like Utah personally.
Same.
Yeah.
I was thinking Utah because Kansas City has the Chiefs.
Yeah, right. That's why.
Jazz are good, but they aren't like anything special at the moment. And who knows?
And like Kansas City's Missouri, right? So like St. Louis, Missouri. So they already have a team in that state. So like.
True.
So that's why I'll probably go with Salt Lake.
I definitely want to see Quebec.
Of course, yeah.
Make it 8 teams Canadian. I'm not saying put them in a division. You have 4 and 4 in the East Coast and 4 in the West Coast. Obviously, I'm sure you could realign, move the most Western, Eastern Conference team over to the Central Division, and yeah, call it a day. But I would prefer Quebec. But
Yeah,
I think the most
Quebec's for
realistic
sure.
one could be Salt Lake is the best spot for me.
Yeah, of course, as Canadians, we want Quebec. I mean, just because why not? And then, realistically, I think it's Salt Lake. And then I'll say second is either Kansas City or Houston, in my opinion.
Yeah. Houston and Texas is definitely a big one just because of the taxes. Now moving to just some quick fire topics before we just close out the video. The Champions League final is officially set. Today, City qualified with a 5-1 aggregate win with a 4-0 dominant performance today. Did Rudiger not surprise you a bit?
Yes, because he did well on Holland. And, just Madrid were just horrible in general today.
Yeah, like the midfield.
Other than Courtois, no one really performed.
Yeah.
So, yeah, without Courtois, I could have been like 6-7.
As you Man United fans, Inter, let's try to ruin the treble, and then we'll try to help with that treble ruining with the FA Cup final as well. But moving on, as I just mentioned, Inter Milan on to the final with a 1-0 win yesterday, and an aggregate score of 3-0 over their rivals AC Milan. Rafael Leao came back, but didn't do much.
I mean, Inter just did what they were supposed to do in the second leg. I mean, they made it a boring, dry game, and I mean, if you're in the lead, that's what you want to do, right?
Yeah.
Just make sure time just keeps on going past and past, right?
Yeah. Sticking to the footy, big news came out. Brentford striker Ivan Toney, who was linked to some big clubs, possible move in the summer, has been banned 8 months. And let me just get this exactly right: 8 months, £50,000, with immediate effect of the suspension for breaching betting rules. So essentially, he confessed to 232 breaches after initially being charged with 262. So he confessed. He's serving 8 months. I don't know how these suspensions usually work with the betting side of things, but yeah, those are the news. Any comments quickly?
Nothing really. I mean, confessed to it, so it's nothing like. There's no real back and forth.
Yeah.
I mean, if the fact that he confessed to it just shows that like he'll just take his punishment, and just move on and hopefully don't make the same mistake again.
Moving on to the fight game, we got some big UFC cards that got announced recently. We'll just tell you what the upcoming events are. Our hometown has the next pay-per-view at UFC 289. It was supposed to be Nunez Pena 3. Sad that we're not going to see a third fight. The first two were definitely obviously the upset, and then the second one was I think from what I know, it was a good fight. And the second one is your boy Charles Oliveira, your favorite fighter, I believe.
Yeah,
is
I
fighting
love watching him fight.
Darwish.
Yeah.
We're not gonna make any predictions. Don't know too much about that. Second, the one that got recently announced a couple of weeks ago, UFC 290. Your boy also Volkanovski taking on the interim champ in Yair Rodriguez, and fellow Mexican Brandon Moreno will be also defending against Pantoja. UFC 291. This was announced yesterday. I'm excited for this one, man. With Masvidal retiring, the BMF belt is now gonna be between Justin Gaethje, my favorite fighter, probably, against Dustin Poirier, and it's a second fight. So definitely excited for that one.
Yeah, their second fight. I mean, they just throw haymakers, and it's just fun to watch, right?
Yeah.
I mean, Gaethje's a striker. Obviously, Poirier's been class in the UFC for a while now, and then I feel like that's the main event, but the co-main event could possibly even be better, with Alex Pereira versus Blachowicz, right?
Yep, Jan Blachowicz. Pereira making his debut at light heavyweight. Obviously, the last time Jan fought someone moving up was Izzy and did win that fight. So let's see if Alex could beat Jan. And lastly, not as big as maybe that card, but still, Sugar Sean O'Malley is getting his title shot against Aljamain Sterling at UFC 292. And the co-main event is Weili Zhang, the women's champ, will be taking on... let me just quickly double check here.
Yeah, so I mean, just comment about Aljamain Sterling. He won his latest fight against Henry Cejudo, who came out of retirement. And yes, I mean, he picked up his title in a controversial way through Petr Yan being DQ'd. So ever since then, he's proven that he's actually a legit champ, because there were obviously comments of like him being a fake champ because of the way he won. But he's proven it the last few fights that like he's here to stay and stuff.
Amanda Lemos is who Weili Zhang is fighting.
Yeah.
Pretty stacked. I'm excited.
Yeah.
Definitely these pay-per-views are going to be good. And to finish off today's video, there's a big boxing fight as well. Vasily Lomachenko versus Devin Haney. We've watched both fighters fight. We're not boxing aficionados. We usually try to watch a good fight to be able to judge it based on that or the eye test. But obviously, Haney is 11 years younger. Definitely on a win, obviously on a 26-fight win streak. The more technical fighter, 15 decisions wins, 16 knockout wins.
And he's also very fast.
Yeah.
He has good footwork, his good feints, and
fought George Kambosos in Australia
twice, and was it both times in Australia?
Yes. I'll quickly fact check that.
Yeah, I mean, he beat Kambosos pretty handily, and then Yeah, he's been on just a hot run. And for Lomachenko, he's been like, it's been good for a while. I don't
Yeah,
know if
I mean,
age is getting to him now, but
our first fight of him was that Lopez fight, which he lost, but he
yeah,
didn't look
Teofimo.
anything bad.
Yeah.
But he's on a 3-fight win streak, got the chance. So, I mean, my prediction, I'm just going to go Haney decision. I think, I mean, it shows it. I think he's a younger fighter. He'll probably beat Loma and by unanimous decision.
Unanimous, yeah. I think I'll go decision, and I'll also agree with you. I'll probably pick Haney, just because, I mean, it's based off a stupid reason, but like Lomachenko lost to Lopez, who lost to Cambosas, who
Yeah.
lost to Haney. So if you're just following that trend, Haney should be winning.
Just
And
to finish the fact, it was both in Australia.
both in, yeah. So like to go into the other guy's home turf and to beat him twice is actually impressive.
Yeah.
Yeah. So basically, that's pretty much it. Please like, comment, and subscribe.
Follow all our socials down below, our Instagram, our TikTok, and our Twitter. And please get us to 100 subs by the end of this month. Comment if you agree, disagree with a lot of our takes, and please like the video as well. And we'll catch you guys in the next one.
Peace.